guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on the View from the Crowd YouTube channel. And today, well, we're having a bit of a lower energy video today. Well, this morning for me, yesterday morning for you guys. Yeah, it was announced that Frank Lampard is no longer going to be the manager of Chelsea, and it genuinely ruined my day. I'm not even joking. It genuinely ruined my day that he got sacked. And I am so disappointed in my club for what's happened. It's just so frustrating that someone who is such a legend of our club, an icon, is just treated the way he was and completely just cast aside after our first run of sort of bad form that we've had since he took over 18 months ago. You know, it really... It's frustrating. It's just frustration. It's just pure frustration from... Now, of course, I'm not going to say that everything at the moment, at Chelsea is going swimmingly, because it's not. Our league form at the moment is pretty dire, But I don't think it meant that Frank had to go. I really don't think it meant that Frank had to go. I think he, at the very least should have been given to the end of the season. I think that's the sort of the consensus among a lot of Chelsea fans was, yeah, things are bad, but it's best to give him to the end of the season, because that way, we can get a true sort of depiction of what's going to happen, this season. I know top four is something that the board and everything wanted, and with the amount of money that was spent over the summer, that's really what we should be getting, because, well, £200 million is a lot of money to spend, and then to not get top 10, well, not top 10, probably going to get top 10, but to get top 4, yeah, it'd be pretty awful. And yeah, with United at the moment doing very well, Liverpool and City doing sort of their best, Leicester being very strong, Everton also playing very well, Villa are still very much in the mix, Spurs in the mix. There's so many teams that have, really stepped up this season, and yeah, we haven't. And yes, it's been frustrating, and yes, I wish we were doing better, but I think Frank could still, he really should still be in charge. There's a lot of issues that we sorted out this season. Our defence, mainly, was something that was really poor, especially our goalkeeper, and we kind of fixed that with Mendy and Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell all coming in and playing very well. But, we kept still, conceding goals and just not being able to go up the other end and score goals. Given the talent that we have up front, Tammy Abraham, people give him a lot of stick. He is still a great player. Olivier Giroud, when he plays, he's fantastic. And then, the £40 million spent on Timo Werner for very, very little from Werner, which has been possibly the most frustrating signing that we've made. Kai Havertz, I think he's been given a bit of a bad rap this season. I know he hasn't been playing brilliantly, but I don't think he's been playing as poorly as some people might say he has been. So that's kind of been slightly frustrating not to see him, really given a chance. £76 million is a lot of money, and we've got to show that we've it's got to go somewhere, and he can't just sit on the bench. these signings that we make, when you make a lot of signings, naturally it's going to take a while for the team to, gel and, become, a unit. That's natural when you sign so many players, and the team is going to change, so drastically from last season. Last season Frank had a bunch of youngsters. However, they were all, also in the Chelsea system, so they were able to, put them where they needed to be. And, it worked for Frank to some extent last season. We still, got top four, got to the final of the FA Cup. It's a relatively successful season, given the fact that we'd sold Hazard, we had a transfer ban, Pulisic was injured for a lot of the season. And just things were sort of looking very much against us last season. Yet Frank was the perfect appointment. And I still stick by that Frank was the right man for the job when he came into the job last season. I know a lot of people, probably non-Chelsea fans, and maybe some Chelsea fans may disagree with that. However, I believe very, very strongly that Frank was the perfect choice to be Chelsea manager last season. We've gone through a turbulent year with Antonio Conte. We'd had a very turbulent year under Maurizio Sarri. Divided a lot of fan base. Did Sarri? He was a very Marmite manager. His style of play was quite boring, and we really lucked our way into getting a top four under Sarri. But we did win the Europa League, which was at least something quite nice. But and after all this sort of division that was in the sort of the Chelsea fan base, I think it was great to see that, we could get someone in like Frank Lampard, someone who is a club legend, an icon, someone that all the fans could back, because he was, he's a Chelsea man. And there's no, Chelsea fans out there that don't like Frank Lampard. And if you do, I would really like to see listen to your reason and why, if you're a Chelsea fan, that you don't like Frank Lampard. Because Christ knows, unless you really hold a grudge against him for scoring that goal for Man City, I don't think you can really argue that that Chelsea fans don't love Frank Lampard, because he was such an iconic player for us for so many years, and he did an amazing job as a player. He's the all-time goal scorer. He won 13, 14 major trophies, Champions League, Premier Leagues, you name it, he's won it. So he was really the right choice. For me at least, and he did a half decent job of it in his first season, and I think a lot of people backed him into this season, including me. I thought surely Frank, with a year under his belt in the Premier League, can sort of push on, but it's not been the case. But whether or not that's been sort of a decent sort of thing to sack him mid-season, I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. Of course, questions are now who we're going to get in. Thomas Tuchel seems to be the candidate that seems to have sort of raised his head, and it seems to be likely that that he might take the job. But it's not a horrendous decision. He had 2 years at Dortmund where he didn't win anything. He then went to Paris and did very well with PSG, but you can say the same for like Unai Emery. Unai Emery did very well at PSG, because let's face it, if you are the PSG manager and don't win trophies, you are the worst manager ever. I'm trying to say, Mauricio Pochettino struggled for God knows how many years at Spurs to try and win a trophy first season. Within sort of like 6 months of being an appointment a PSG manager, he's won his first trophy. It's for managers who go out to to manage PSG, winning trophies isn't the most difficult thing. But as a German coach, and he's got a very sort of apparently he's got a very sort of German sort of coaching style and sort of way of getting the best out of his players. It could be a big help to us. because ironically it's the two German signings that are struggling the most. So if he does come in and is able to do something with Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, that's huge. Not just for the Chelsea, but also in terms of sort of the Premier League and where we all end up in the Premier League, because it's those two players that we're just kind of waiting to unlock their potential before we can really, mount our challenge for the top of the table. We've seen in the Bundesliga that Timo Werner is an absolutely prolific goal scorer. We even saw that in the Champions League last year, that Timo Werner is a prolific goal scorer. Kai Havertz, brilliant. He can make goals from nothing, and he can even score himself. At his time at Leverkusen. So if Tuchel is able to unlock their potential, then that's great, and I welcome it. But how, if Tuchel is to sign, questions are sort of raised on how long he'll actually be at Chelsea. He has a quite a strong reputation of falling out with owners and sort of clubs in general. So whether or not he'll be there for that half season, maybe a full, maybe sort of like 18 months, is really unknown. The thing is, what I thought when we brought Frank in is that I thought finally some sort of time, we've taken a manager which is relatively inexperienced, and he's going to sort of grow with the club. If you think back to when Sir Alex Ferguson started Manchester United, he'd managed, I think it was Aberdeen beforehand, and he comes into Manchester United. He didn't win anything really for the first couple of seasons that he was manager, but the United board gave him time. He became one of the greatest managers of all time. And I'm not saying Frank would have become someone sort of like Alex Ferguson. However, you can't just sort of give a relatively knowingly hire an inexperienced manager and then say, oh yeah, you've got to do this, we're expecting you to win the Premier League within 2 seasons, because it's not going to happen. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans sort of knew that when Frank took over. It's like, this isn't something that is going to be, he's going to come in and he's going to win us everything. It was a longer term project, he's going to develop our youth, which he did very well. We've seen, Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, I would say Tomori, but he's off to Milan now. Hudson-Odoi has been a sort of a more inclusive member of the squad in recent games. Billy Gilmore's coming in recently, it's been nice to sort of see that sort of inclusion in the squad with our youth. And I was just hoping that this team would just grow, manager developing alongside players, and it would sort of form into something that would achieve great things. But that's now been completely cast aside, and I think we're just going to be going into the old Chelsea routine of rotating managers every couple of seasons. And that's been one of the most frustrating elements of being a Chelsea fan. You think since, Jose got sacked, all the way back in, 2007, you think of the amount of managers that Chelsea have gone through since. We've had Scolari, Grant, Hiddink came in, Ancelotti, we've had AVB, Di Matteo, Benitez, Jose again. Hiddink came back to replace him as well. Then we had Conte, we've had Sarri, and now we've had Lampard. That is an extraordinary amount of managers that have come and gone, especially for in terms of a big team. In that time, Arsenal have had 3 managers. They've had 4 if you count in Ljungberg, but it's been Unai Emery, Ljungberg, and then Arteta. Manchester United, they've gone through a few. The gigs, Louis van Gaal, David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Giggs took over for a little bit, but then Jose, and now Ole has come in, and even I would say Manchester United have been worse through worse forms than Chelsea. Yet Ole's still very much at the at the in charge of Manchester United, with his sort of like lack of experience at top sort of football. He managed Cardiff and then in the Norwegian league. Not exactly an impressive CV from him. But Liverpool, they've been through Brendan Rodgers, Jurgen Klopp. There's probably some that I've missed. City have been through a few. They've had Pep, they've had Pellegrini, they've had Mancini. But I think it's just Chelsea's fundamental flaw. The worst thing a Chelsea manager could ever do is win the Premier League in their first season. I think Conte found that out in probably the worst way possible. But I think, Tuchel's going to come in. If he does, of course, it's not confirmed yet. But if he does come in, I don't think he'll be a long-term appointment. Maximum, I give him 2 seasons before he's probably going to piss off someone at the top of Chelsea or even Abramovich himself, and he'll be gone. And then it's just a question of, well, who do we get in after that then? Do we, who do we sort out to try and get in? God forbid we go back to Jose for the 3rd time, but it's a big question of who will come in, what will happen. Of course, this is coming out on Tuesday, so I'm recording this sort of Monday night, so God only knows if he'll be appointed sort of before then. But they did say they want to get our next manager appointed before Wolves, so naturally it will probably be announcement will be come in the next couple of days. I think that's what's expected. So guys, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments sort of on what you think of the sacking of the decision made by Chelsea, definitely let me know down in the comments below. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell to turn notifications on so you're notified every time I upload. Also, make sure to follow my blog down in the description below. I've been posting content on there fairly regularly, and I've also started posting content on Spotlight Pro, so the link to that will also be down in the description. I have a few pieces coming up about the Super Bowl, which is in a couple of weeks, and also I now started a monthly column on Chelsea, so if you're interested in reading that, make sure to follow that down in the description below, and keep an eye out for when I post my thing at the end of the month. So guys, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. My name's been Louis Edwards. Thank you and